let's move on to the NBA here. As Ja Morant says that the Memphis Grizzlies have no competition in the Western Conference, only the Celtics. Is Ja Morant speaking facts, Zach?
So I don't think he is, but here's my point, right? I have no problem if deep down he thinks that. The Grizzlies are a really good team that have been a real threat in the Western Conference. They are this year, they were last year. But I'll say this, Will, like I look at the Western Conference right now, and a lot of the teams that I expected big things from going into the season, teams like the Nuggets, teams like the Clippers, they haven't been bad, but they just haven't been as good as a lot of people expected. And I'm looking at the West right now, and I think it's as wide open as ever. Are the Grizzlies a threat? Absolutely. What they could definitely get into the NBA Finals. Ja Morant, he could lead them. He's one of the best players in the league. Very exciting to watch. But I just don't know what he really gains by saying this. And whenever something like this happens, especially when you haven't accomplished it, we all usually know how it ends, and it's not well. And the other thing I'll say about Morant is I think him staying on the floor, like that has to be a concern because I think there is a chance the Grizzlies could have beat the Warriors last year in the quarterfinals if he is on the floor healthy in each of those games. Unfortunately, he wasn't. But yeah, I think I look at the East right now. You have the Celtics, you have the Bucks. Those have been probably the two best teams in the Eastern Conference for the majority of the season. And I think they could be on a collision course for a rematch in the Eastern Conference Finals. I know you have teams like Cleveland, teams like Brooklyn. They've been playing some really good basketball, but I don't view the West like that at all. Like I don't view as like one team as unbeatable or as the quote unquote team to beat. I think the Grizzlies are in the conversation. The Suns are in the conversation. The Clippers, the Nuggets, even the Pelicans are in that conversation as well. Like I view the Western Conference right now as wide open, and I think the playoffs would make for some great TV.
And to me, this was not really a shot at the Western Conference. This was a shot at the Golden State Warriors. Okay, for anybody who really doesn't know or hasn't read in between the lines, it's a shot at the Warriors. Okay, because the Warriors are the team that sent them home. They're the ones that won the championship. So it was a shot at them. They're not worried about them. And they shouldn't really be worried about them right now. I mean, Steve Kerr is still trying to figure out his bench rotation. His bench, he's still trying to operate that, right? Sort of like what the Packers try to do with the receivers, try to get them up to date, trying to get these young bulls over here up to speed. Steph Curry is out, with a shoulder injury. And based on how he sounded in the interview during the next game, it don't look like he's coming back anytime soon right now. So when you combine that with how slow they started, then yeah, right now you may not have to worry about them like that. Obviously, they're always dangerous when they make the dance, but still, right now you're feeling optimistic on that side. Now, when you talk about the outlook of the conference, like you alluded to, right now I'm looking at they tied. They kind of like number ones with the Nuggets for number one in the West. You also got the Suns, but even the Suns, like the Suns every year, at some point they're gonna evaporate, bro. Anytime I look around TV, I see this guy, Monty Williams and DeAndre Ayton snapping on each other. Like that's bound to just dissolve. Okay, at some point. And CP3, we all know his playoff roles. Okay, we all know his injury proneness as well. So I'm not trusting that operation like that. The Pelicans, obviously you got Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, and what they're building over there. Their team to look out for the Nuggets. But I think the Grizzlies has as great of a shot as anybody do to come out and represent the Western Conference in the NBA Finals. And that's because they play with confidence. Just like how Ja Morant is speaking, that's how they play. How he's talking is how they play, with confidence. They have swagger. They're very athletic. They're big. You got Jaren Jackson. You got Brandon Clark. You got Steven Adams. So they can win in a multitude of ways. You got a duo over there with Ja and Desmond Bane, who should be coming back, who's been shooting well prior to getting injured. So they are very complete, in my honest opinion. And listen, I would not be shocked at all if they're the team representing. Now, one could argue, should they be worried about the Celtics and not the Bucks, or are we penciling in the Celtics to come out the East? That's obviously up for debate. I like the Celtics to come out. I picked them to start off the year. They're only going to get better. Jason Tatum has proven to take that next leap. Jaylen Brown is taking that next leap. I think he could challenge for an all-NBA team. But, you do have Giannis, okay, the best player in the world. So I won't necessarily pencil in the Celtics, although I do think that ultimately the Celtics will represent the East, and we'll see who represent the rest.
Yeah, the thing with the Celtics to me that's so fascinating, and I felt this way going into the season, with the whole Ime Udoka stuff going on prior to the season, you rarely see a team that is clearly ready to win a championship. They just got there last year, and I was just a little bit unsure how to feel about the Celtics going into the season, like knowing they're a great team, but who knows what their coaching situation is like. And Joe Mazzulla has done a really good job so far up to this point. Celtics have been the best team in the league until these recent struggles. I'm going to be very curious to see how he responds to this adversity and the struggles they're going through right now, because really for the first time all season, this is the first time where the Celtics are feeling a little bit worried. They haven't been playing great. And that it also has to be the same time where all of a sudden, like the Brooklyn Nets, they're coming. They're playing some really good basketball as well. Cleveland's looking good. So really for the first time, I'm starting to think maybe a little bit the Celtics and the Bucks, they might have some company in the East after the first part of the season. It really looked like it was those two teams and everyone else.
I still kind of feel that way. That it's those teams and everybody else. Like I do believe Cleveland is playing well. They obviously in that bracket. You know, the Nets are playing well. They in that bracket. But I think 1 and 2 has a little bit of separation. Now, Cleveland and the Nets could obviously steal games in the playoffs. You have a elite backcourt. You're going to be able to steal games. So they're going to test them. But I think for the Celtics point and about the coaching real quickly here, right? I think for me, when you look at the Celtics, what's underrated about them and what's underrated about the league is you don't really need like elite level coaching in the NBA compared to like the NFL. For an example, right? Let's take the Celtics for an example. Even though they had elite coaching, you know, they made the Eastern Conference Finals, I believe, twice with Brad Stevens. They made the finals with Ime, and obviously they got up to the great start with this coach over here, and then obviously they sputtering, but they have shown that they can win with a lot of different coaches. Doc Rivers, they won a championship with him. So you look at Cleveland and who was their coach, David Blatt. They got to a championship with him, and they was the number 1 seed before he actually went out and got fired. They were the number 1 seed. So you can make the finals, you can potentially win the finals with coaching. Remember, the guy from Milwaukee, oh my God, why am I blanking on his name?
Mike Budenholzer.
Mike Budenholzer. His job was on the line. People forgot about that. His job was on the line. He going to win the finals, right? So coaching, you can overcome coaching. But I think when you reflect back to this conversation about Ja Morant and what he's doing in the Western Conference, he's dominant. The team is playing well. I believe that they have a great shot to come out. And I don't think nobody should have a higher odds to come out. I think it's them and a couple other teams. I think the Nuggets have a great amount of shot to come out as well, and the Clippers, and who knows? Who else? Pelicans, possibly.
Yeah, I'll quickly check the odds right now in terms of NBA Finals, but I still think like the Grizzlies, they could have had the Warriors beaten last year in that playoff series.
Yeah,
it was very competitive. Game 1, Morant played great. That went down to the wire. But right now, Vegas has the Grizzlies as the 4th highest team in the West, but it's pretty close. They still have Phoenix most likely to win the finals out of the West, plus 900. Clippers at plus 1,000. Warriors still there, plus 1,000. And then the Grizzlies in 4th at plus 1,200 with the Nuggets not too far behind at plus 1,600. So the last point I'll make is it feels great as an NBA fan, especially like this time of year when the season's going on. Like the Western Conference, it's pretty wide open. There are at least 4 or 5 teams that we could realistically say, okay, we wouldn't be shocked if somehow, some way they find themselves in the NBA Finals. And that has not always been the case dating back to recent years with the Warriors and their run. So it's just very refreshing as an NBA fan. And I'm going to be really excited about these playoffs, especially compared to some years past.
It's very interesting that Vegas still believes in the Warriors. I'm guessing they believe that, come playoff time, no matter what seed they are, that their championship pedigree, they could go on the road and win. I'm going to ask you this last question here. If the Grizzlies and the Warriors were to meet again, because, obviously, I won't rule that out. They're rivals. Let's see if they play each other again. If they want to play each other in the playoffs this time around, being that you saw what the Warriors are so far and the Grizzlies, what they are so far this far, do you think that the Grizzlies will be able to pack them up this time around and finish them out?
I do. I'm not going to lie. I'm out on the Warriors. I think they are experiencing a little bit of a championship hangover, and they're really just not prioritizing the regular season. Like when you watch them, it doesn't really feel like they care. And that fits perfectly in today's modern day NBA. And I just think last year's run was really special. A lot of things went right for them, and that's not to diminish them in any way, but I think it's just hard to catch those breaks again. And I think the Grizzlies are really hungry. They'd have that playoff series circled. I think the Grizzlies would want to see the Warriors in a playoff series. I don't think the Warriors have any interest in seeing a motivated Grizzlies team in a playoff series. I would be on the Grizzlies in that case. How about you?
I will probably say the same thing, as of today. But the Warriors, what they've done over the years, it has to be respected at the same time. So I think it will be a long series, but I could potentially see the Grizzlies winning that this year.
Yeah, and they're going to play on Christmas, right? So I know Curry's out, but we'll get a little bit of a sneak preview stuff.
Unfortunately, it should have been the Nets playing on Christmas Day, but Kevin Durant and everything that happened in the summertime in the offseason, they're like, listen, we're not taking no risk because we are not trying to see no bums on Christmas Day. So it is what it is, but they should have been on there.